Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as follows. By having the time, date, and place of the meeting posted on the bulletin board and Administration Building, May 24th, 2021. By sending a copy of the meeting notice to the Star-Ledger newspaper and the Union County local source on May 24th, 2021. And by filing a copy with the Township of Hillside in the Hillside Public Library on May 24th, 2021. Roll call.
Mr. Younger?
Present.
Ms. Best?
Present.
Ms. Horton-Gibbons?
Present.
Mr. Howard?
Here.
Ms. Simmons?
Present.
Mr. Shapiro?
Joyfully here.
Ms. Tucker?
Present.
Ms. Worrell?
Present.
Ms. Cook?
Present.
There were no email public comments as of 5:15 this afternoon.
Thank you. Ms. Best, can you move items under finance?
I would like to move items 1 through 2 under finance.
Second.
Questions?
Questioning the bill for Vincent Caputo. It says that it has to do with mentoring Mr. Bevere.
Which number?
Mr. Bevere's mentor for his superintendent program.
Just for all board members, can you repeat and speak into the mic? They weren't able to hear you.
I thought I was. So the question was, Mr. Vincent Caputo, the bills for mentoring Mr. Bevere. My second question is BSN Sports, says masks for Ms. Sidwell in the high school. I guess if they were for COVID, shouldn't have been, they went under objectives instead of, they went under a different line item instead of
These are probably special prepared masks because the bulk of our masks have been purchased through the CARES Act.
the doctor, I might be massacring his name, but Harico, for $16,000. Is that monthly or yearly?
Annual. That's his annual bill, and we were late in getting it to him because we were closed. But he did serve us over the entire year.
Okay. And then Little Bears, the pre-K, Little Bears for the pre-K.
That's,
Are we still paying them even though we're not having pre-K students in class, or
yeah, they do.
they do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that is built into our PSEA grant, so that's covered.
And I had a question from a couple months ago. I never got an answer for it. We were paying for out-of-state tuition for a student that was going to college in, I believe it was Maryland, and I asked for more information on what. Oh, well, it wasn't totally answered.
So I believe that was answered.
But then I had a question because the dollar amount wasn't a lot. So I was trying to figure out how, if he was commuting or if he was going to be staying there. And I didn't get
that student does not commute. That student is here in the Hillside, and I believe the services were coming from that program in Maryland. Just the services for the student, but the student.
Yes, I do remember now. It's a remote program.
Okay.
That's what it was.
The Patrick School, that's going through the grant, correct?
Yes, we're a flow through for any parochial school, so we get the money from the state, and then as they prepare the POs, we pay them.
So Taylor Rental Center for the banquet, what,
That's for the prom,
the prom?
tent, et cetera.
And the Sun Life Financial Health Benefits, $131,000, it said, is that a different company we pay for health benefits?
That's the reinsurance, so if they reach a cap with any particular illness or situation under our regular program, this kicks in as a reinsurance, so we were never exposed beyond $100,000 per incident.
Okay. And then there's a nameplate on there, so we paid for West Hudson. Name on the plate says Ace Alters. I know it's only $17, but
What's the vendor you want?
West Hudson, it's at the bottom, it's the supplemental one. It's at the bottom of the supplemental.
Those are the previous board meetings.
I think that's the previous board member, Antonio Salters.
That was with Antonio when he was on here. We never got the report.
Yeah, and the Epic Health Nurses Services. Is it, I guess we have don't all the schools have their own nurse, or we have a nurse services coming in?
That's for a special.
Class special, okay. And question for the keyboards. I see that the Chromebooks, we have two vendors. Why are we using two different vendors instead of just getting them all from one vendor?
One had a great price for the longest time, and then Deanna did her exploration on the prices, and at a certain point, another vendor. We had difficulty receiving them because they were so far behind that Alice Velez actually had a vendor that she's been using in other districts that she's worked with, and they had them available for relatively, if not less money. So we went with them, so the turnaround time would be greater. Otherwise, we were waiting 4 or 5 months for them.
And then this one, I guess, reimbursement for Kim Cook for the supplies for the prom.
She had to go to the dollar store, we didn't have an account with them,
All right.
and she's gonna abstain on that vote.
And then there's Union County Educational Services for IDAs and out-of-district placement, or out-of-district or out-of-state.
Out of district, they provide special education services for transportation, for speech, and other compensatory education services for the entire county.
And then my last question for finance is the wood services is an out-of-state tuition.
That's another outsourced placement for special ed.
There's I'm done, thank you.
Any other questions?
I didn't hear the answer for the mentor one, which is the Amazon.
Dr. Revere's going for superintendency and the certification, and part of that is a mentor program,
Oh,
and it's built into his contract. Mr. Yandel,
Yes.
Ms. Best,
Yes.
Ms. Horton,
yes.
Mr. Howard. Here. Ms. Simmons.
Yes.
Mr. Shapiro.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker.
Yes.
Ms. Wall.
Yes.
Ms. Cook.
Yes to all items except for 2 under supplemental bills, 1493. I abstain.
Got it. Thank you all.
Mr. Shapiro, can you move items under labor?
Move items 1 and 2 under labor.
But before we go further, I have questions on labor, we can't do it in public, so how are we doing that?
All right. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act that the Board of Education meet in executive session at this time to discuss matters related to labor negotiations. The board will reconvene in public session at the conclusion of the closed session. The matters discussed in closed session will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Matters of attorney-client privilege and litigation as well.
Okay, matters of attorney-client privileges as well.
motion, Eleanor Laurel, second by Wani Yende at 6:46 to go back into open session. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard, can you do items under labor?
Certainly. I move items under, items 1 through 2 on the labor, please.
Your second?
Second.
Mr. Yende?
I'm gonna abstain on both.
Ms. Best?
Yes.
Ms. Horton Givens?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Tucker?
No on both?
Ms. Warren?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
So moved. We move to adjourn.
Motion to.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.